Narrated Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, sent for an Ansari man who came with water dropping from his head. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Perhaps we have forced you to hurry up, haven't we?" The Ansari replied, "Yes." Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, further said, "If you are forced to hurry up during intercourse, or you do not discharge, then ablution is due on you." This order was cancelled later on, i.e., one has to take a bath. Narrated Usama bin Zaid. When Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, departed from Arafat, he turned towards a mountain pass where he answered the call of nature. After he had finished, I poured water and he performed ablution, and then I said to him, "O Allah's Messenger, will you offer the prayer?" He replied, "The Musalla, place of the prayer, is ahead of you, in Al-Muzdalifah." Narrated Al-Mughira bin Shubi'ah. I was in the company of Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, on one of the journeys, and he went out to answer the call of nature, and after he finished, I poured water and he performed ablution. He washed his face, forearms, and passed his wet hand over his head and over the two cuff socks made from thick fabric or leather. Narrated Abdullah bin Abbas. That he stayed overnight in the house of Maymunah, the wife of the Prophet, his aunt. He added, I lay on the bed, cushioned transversely, while Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, and his wife lay in the lengthwise direction of the cushion. Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, slept till the middle of the night, either a bit before or a bit after it, and then woke up, rubbing the traces of sleep off his face with his hands. He then recited the last 10 verses of Surah Al-Imran, got up and went to a hanging water skin. He then performed the ablution from it, and it was a perfect ablution, and then stood up to offer the prayer. I too got up and did as the Prophet had done. Then I went and stood by his side. He placed his right hand on my head and caught my right ear and twisted it. He prayed 2 rakat, then 2 rakat, and 2 rakat, and then 2 rakat, and then 2 rakat, and then 2 rakat, separately 6 times, and finally 1 rak'ah, the witr. Then he lay down again in the bed till the Mu'adhin came to him, whereupon the Prophet, peace be upon him, got up, offered a 2 light rakat prayer, and went out and led the far prayer. Narrated Asma bint Abu Bakr. I came to Aisha, the wife of the Prophet, peace be upon him, during the solar eclipse. The people were standing and offering the prayer, and she was also praying. I asked her, "What is wrong with the people?" She beckoned with her hand towards the sky and said, "Subhanallah." I asked her, "Is there a sign?" She pointed out, "Yes." So I too stood for the prayer till I fell unconscious, and later on I poured water on my head. After the prayer, Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, praised and glorified Allah and said, "Just now I have seen something which I never saw before at this place of mine, including paradise and hell. I have been inspired, and have understood that you will be put to trials in your graves, and these trials will be like the trials of Ad-Dajjal, or nearly like it." The sub-narrator is not sure of what Asma said. Angels will come to every one of you and ask, "What do you know about this man?" A believer will reply, "He is Muhammad, Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, and he came to us with self-evident truth and guidance. So we accepted his teaching, believed and followed him." Then the angels will say to him to sleep in peace, as they have come to know that he was a believer. On the other hand, a hypocrite or a doubtful person will reply, "I do not know, but heard the people saying something, and so I said the same." Narrated Yahya al-Mazini. A person asked Abdullah bin Zayd, who was the grandfather of Ammar bin Yahya, "Can you show me how Allah's Messenger used to perform ablution?" Abdullah bin Zayd replied in the affirmative and asked for water. He poured it on his hands and washed them twice, then he rinsed his mouth thrice and washed his nose with water thrice by putting water in it and blowing it out. He washed his face thrice, and after that he washed his forearms up to the elbows twice, and then passed his wet hands over his head from its front to its back and vice versa, beginning from the front and taking them to the back of his head up to the nape of the neck, and then brought them to the front again from where he had started, and washed his feet up to the ankles. Narrated Ammar. My father saw Ammar bin Abi Hassan asking Abdullah bin Zayd about the ablution of the Prophet. Abdullah bin Zayd asked for earthenware pot containing water, and in front of them performed ablution like that of the Prophet, peace be upon him. He poured water from the pot over his hand and washed his hands thrice, and then he put his hands in the pot and rinsed his mouth and washed his nose by putting water in it, and then blowing it out with 3 handfuls of water. Again he put his hand in the water and washed his face thrice and washed his forearms up to the elbows twice, and then put his hands in the water, and then passed them over his head by bringing them to the front, and then to the rear of the head once, and then he washed his feet up to the ankles. Narrated Abu Juhayfa. Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, came to us at noon, and water for ablution was brought to him. After he had performed ablution, the remaining water was taken by the people, and they started smearing their bodies with it, as a blessed thing. The Prophet, peace be upon him, offered 2 rakat of the Zuhr prayer, and then 2 rakat of the Asr prayer, while a short spear or stick was there as a sutra in front of him. Abu Musa said, the Prophet asked for a tumbler containing water and washed both his hands and face in it, and then threw a mouthful of water in the tumbler, and said to both of us, Abu Musa and Bilal, drink from the tumbler and pour some of its water on your faces and chests. Narrated Ibn Shihab. Mahmud bin Arabi, who was the person on whose face the Prophet, peace be upon him, had ejected a mouthful of water from his family's well while he was a boy. And Urwa, on the authority of Al-Maswar and others, who testified each other, said, whenever the Prophet, peace be upon him, performed ablution, his companions were nearly fighting for the remains of the water,